The Let Me Be Frank podcast is proudly sponsored by Glenwood. Glenwood are the UK's leading construction industry debt recovery agency.
Remember, no win, no fee with Glenwood Debt Recovery.
Find out more at glenwoodconstruction.co.uk. We're back with another episode of Let Me Be Frank podcast with myself, Simon Houston, Frank McAvennie.
Yeah.
And before I go and introduce this week's guest, we need to talk about the big match a couple of nights ago. The big game that everybody was talking about. All the European football was talking about it on Tuesday night.
Yes.
Morecambe versus Doncaster. Our guest was there for Sky, Andy Walker. How you doing?
Frank called me, he said, "You watch the game tonight?" I said, "Of course, there's only one game on tonight. Morecambe against Doncaster."
Brilliant.
That was the one I was doing. But same night as Celtic played in Munich.
Wonderful game that was.
Saw the highlights.
So how was your game?
It was it's probably one of the worst games I've ever seen. But it started well. We had a goal in the first few minutes, and Doncaster were actually quite good. But interesting that Derek Adams is now the manager of Morecambe, who absolutely slaughtered Scottish football a couple of years ago. And I mean, it's a tidy wee stadium. The pitch is awful. The standard of football was really poor, and he's struggling. His team are in the bottom two of League Two, so they may well get relegated.
Karma catches you. And then,
yeah.
There's ways. Listen, I understand what he was saying about Scottish football, but they're not as bad as what he was making out to be. I think a lot of things in Scottish football can improve, but to slaughter it when you're employed in the Scottish League.
I love my Scottish football, and there's a lot. When you think of Andy Robertson going for Queen's Park, Dundee United to Liverpool, Virgil van Dijk, Celtic, Southampton, Liverpool, John McGinn, the St Mirren, Hibs, and he goes to Villa. It's a great stepping stone, and we're right on the border of the richest league in the world. But I think it's a good question to debate the standard. Yes. I mean, you and I played against the best Aberdeen team in their history, the best Dundee United team in their history. Rangers had a good team. Hearts and Hibs were really good. It's interesting to compare the two. So,
obviously, joking aside, the big game of Tuesday night, Bayern, Celtic, absolutely heartbreaking.
I was shouting, screaming at the telly, poor dog. It was with 4 champs.
Who were you with?
McGregor, I was on one.
Was it Barney you were with, aye?
I was with Barney, I was shouting.
Barney's his
running
boxer.
out. He's running out, I got that.
I thought it was another bloke.
I got that, you're right. No.
Lots to chew
some
over.
Of the chances. Some of the chances were great.
Okay, well, let's address that first. Because there was a wee debate last night about where the gilt-edged chances. So the one that Maid arrives just a fraction too late for.
Got to anticipate that.
Is that a chance? He's no reaching it.
Do you know what I'm talking about? Engels put across.
I've seen the highlights.
It should. I think you're behind the guy. I think you should be ready for that.
The one when Kuhn took a touch and then he babied it into the keeper's hands, pretty much.
We're picking forward, but I'm going to be honest with you. It's the best Celtic display, not just in Europe, that I've seen for a long, long time. Not just in Europe.
I had a couple of friends that went to the game, and I think they were all expecting a 2-3-4-0 for Bayern. So I think to see Celtic compete at that level, I mean, Bayern are a fabulous team. Some of their possession, without really having the cutting edge in Glasgow, but some of their possession was tremendous, and they gave Celtic the runaround for a wee bit. But I think it now. You now want Celtic to reach that level.
Yeah, every time.
That's where they should be. That's where, for so many years, Celtic just wanted to be one step ahead of Rangers, and it's great to see them make their mark.
That's what I've always wanted. I've always said that with Celtic. They're not going to win the Champions League, but to get the old one, to get to the group stages, and then after Christmas in the group stage, you get knocked out, you go in the Europa League. That's something that doesn't happen now.
Yeah.
But it's now a wonderful, different tournament, and it's great that we're after Christmas we're still in Europe.
It is, but you know what? You wonder. Look at that performance Tuesday night there. Celtic dropping down into the Europa League and playing that level of football. How far could they go? Well, that's the thing. But anyway, that doesn't matter.
I like to comment. I don't know if you've seen Andy with Brendan after it. He wasn't resting on his laurels. He says, yeah, we'll go again in the summer, we'll get new players. And I'm thinking, he needs that because the people you bring on now, I mean, you've got your Bernardo and McAvennie, but they're different defenders. You need to bring on quality.
I think it's a really interesting one, Frank, because
I think he's thinking that way.
Well, his contract runs out at the end of next season, I think. So you would need him to extend his contract. If you're on the board at Celtic, you would need him to extend his contract.
I don't have any problem
for
with that.
Brendan to have a chance of getting the type of money that he's talking about to get the players in, to spend 11 on Engels, 9 on Ida, 6 on Trusty. I've got to be honest, I didn't think Celtic would do that. He's the only manager that would have made the Celtic board spend that amount of money.
Yeah, but he's also been a wee bit more realistic too. And he said last night, I think it was before the game, in an interview, he realised that he was being a bit unrealistic first time round, the expectations of what he could spend. Yeah. And obviously he got a bit ratty with the board towards the end. And what he's saying now is, I kind of realise what they're operating with, and I can get my head around it. So hopefully this time he doesn't kind of throw the dummy out the
pram. No, I don't think he will.
But obviously you're right, he's spending money that Celtic would never have spent before.
I think he's a wonderful coach as well.
But they're a selling club. Yeah. If Newcastle come in for Nicholas Kuhn,
go on.
I think Celtic will do business. If any club comes in for any Celtic player, Celtic are the type of club, and they've shown it over the last number of years. They will make money on any player that they've bought for a relatively small fee, and that would be a blow. If you lost a Dyson Maeda, if you lost a Nicholas Kuhn, that would affect Celtic's chances of going so far in Europe.
Yeah. That's a tough thing that Celtic managers have got to deal with. That other European managers don't. Well, obviously, in certain countries of a similar size to Scotland, yes, they do have to deal with that. But the teams who are kind of going far in tournaments.
Well, we keep talking about, Simon, we keep talking about different things. We say, why are they beating us? But they're the same sort of equivalent to Scotland. Some teams, from no disrespect, Sweden or Norway or whatever, they shouldn't be. No, but they shouldn't be coming, and they come and give us, and that's a good coach. So we've got a great coach now, and I think.
But these teams often come and go as well. There's Bodo Glimt, for example, like a few years ago, they had a cracking team.
I know, it's a Wi-Fi number.
They were beating everybody. And they were like, who was the team? Did they not go and win in Madrid or something like that?
They did, yes.
And then all of a sudden, the Vultures grabbed their players and then they've got to start again.
I know. So yeah, it's good.
So you think you had some thoughts on the defence
the defence, I just look at defence and I'm thinking, we've got defenders, and I've been saying for a while, to get anywhere in Europe, you need good defenders. And that defence the night, not taking anything away from Greg Taylor or Scales, but they four the other night are the best that I've seen. Is it Olise, the boy?
Olise,
It was incredible what he'd done in the first leg. It was just incredible. He tore Greg a new one, and no disrespect to Greg, but he's got a heart of a lion, the boy.
I've got to say, Frank, I'm a big fan of Greg Taylor. I think he's been absolutely terrific.
I don't mean that.
When you look at
defenders, I'm talking about defenders.
But when you look at Jeffrey Schlupp, and I know you see a lot of English football too, and I go to a lot of English football. The biggest difference I see on a weekly basis, never mind anyone's ability, it's the sheer size, their physique, their strength. And Schlupp, look at the size. He's so powerful. He's so quick. Totally different build to Greg Taylor. And I thought he was. He'll be a great player for Celtic, I think. But he's an upgrade on Greg Taylor. If you bring in Kieran Tierney, he's an upgrade on Greg Taylor. But in all honesty, I think Greg Taylor's been absolutely terrific for Celtic.
I'm not saying that. But I was talking to somebody the other day, and this is going back, not just Greg, but this is going back to just in general, defenders. Did they ever get taught how to defend now? See, when I went to West Ham, the defenders get taught how to defend. They get took away.
In what way? What are you talking about?
Well, they get took away and they get people running at them and how to shuttle them across, how to do this, how to defend. I don't know if they do that now.
They must have defensive
Everything's all about passing it out. Everything's all about working on passing it out.
To be
and
fair,
I don't think there's any defending. Yeah. I mean, it's an art. Defending is a major part of the game.
When I see a defender not showing a winger onto his weak foot, I'm thinking,
Well,
how can you possibly not know that?
You're talking about the same distance with me, but that was Greg had done it, and I don't know, because the boy can't kick with his right foot. And I just thought he'd the making for him the other night or so.
Frank, it's a different game that we watch now.
Yeah.
The game that you and I played, where if we're playing up front and Packy's in goal, he'll launch the ball, he'll kick it, and he'll kick it every time. Occasionally, he'll throw it out. Pitches were really poor. Yeah. The pitches now are a lot better, especially in England. Celtic's pitch is normally really good. They throw the ball out. Yeah. And you won't get a game now for one of the top teams unless you can control the ball, receive it really well, and use it. You have to be able to use it. And look at the
even
emphasis.
The keepers, even the goalies.
The emphasis, Simon, that they place on goalkeepers now. Kasper Schmeichel has to be a sweeper keeper. Yeah. He has to be able to pass it.
Yeah.
And it's a big change. Can you imagine Packy passing the ball? Not a chance.
Even more latterly,
if he pass it back to him.
even more latterly, I felt hard sorry for Big Fraser Foster. Even at Spurs as recently as this season, when it was a game where he just couldn't do it.
Well, the problem is if you've got goalkeepers who think they're footballers, they've got no idea how quickly you need to move your feet.
I know.
You can see it happening, and it's
the thing. I just thought it was blatantly obvious last night, and it's not. As I say, I'm not having to go to anybody because these boys have been great with the jersey and great servants. But the four right across the back, I thought they were good in the ball. They didn't panic. But they were the defensive unit, they were putting their bodies in the line, they were getting in front of everyone, and I thought it was just a great advert for Celtic.
Let me ask you this: you're sitting beside Brendan, and he wants to sign players for next season. Who do you think? What positions does Celtic need then to improve?
I think they need another centre half to come in, because if one of them get injured, I know Scales is great and he comes in and he'll do well, but in Europe you need a like for like. I think.
Scales was brilliant against Atalanta.
Listen, I've not got a problem with it, but every game, you think you can go every game, it just makes mistakes.
Well, you talk about Brendan Rodgers and how good a manager he is. I do think he is capable of improving players, and Scales would be one of them.
That's fine. Well, that's fine, but I just think he's making some mistakes, that's all. I mean, I'm entitled to, as you say, entitled to my opinion, and I think he makes some mistakes. And I think me being a centre forward, I would lean on him. I would play on him all the time because he ball watches.
Leave him on it.
Oh, that's shout.
This is good, by the way.
Did
you two argue like this in 1988?
Yeah, we did. I mean, he used to say to me about diving. You would dive. I said, I wouldn't dive. I said, because he takes the penalties. I'm going to dive for what game I go.
We're 12 minutes in and we haven't even scratched the surface of all the things we talked to you guys about. It's a good thing you were talking about Morecambe, because we've got the Morecambe and Wise of Centenary season here.
Yes.
Andy, so you obviously joined in 1987?
87,
from Motherwell.
Yeah.
How did it come about? What's your recollections?
I knew a few months before the summer of 87 that Celtic's interest, one of the directors had spoken to my dad. They'd done some business together. My dad used to look after Billy McNeil's business affairs. He was like a friend of the family. He did some stuff with Tommy Burns, with Danny McGrain.
One of the ones that lost money.
Not at all. And so I knew of Celtic's interest. And at the end of the season, Tommy McLean at Motherwell called me and said, can you come into the club? There's something happening. And I thought, great, I'm going to Celtic. And when I went in to speak to him, he said, listen, you've been great for us. Got you here from junior football, 3 years. You've really helped us, done well. And I think it's time for you to make the next step. And I'm sitting there with a big smile on my face thinking, I'm going to Celtic. And he says, Dundee United are in for you. And of course, I didn't let on. And then I asked him, has anyone else expressed an interest in any other club? He said, no. Get yourself up to Dundee. And of course, he's sending me up to his brother, Jim McLean. So I would have killed it stone dead, but my dad was smarter than me, and he said, let's go up to Dundee, let's see what they're offering, and then we can use it elsewhere, whatever happens. And then, of course, Davy Hay got the sack at Celtic, so I thought the move might fall through. But Billy, being a family friend, he called me, and he said, don't worry about it, I'm getting the job, and I'll sign you. Fantastic. So I signed for Celtic in 87, and a couple of months later, the Bold Francis came along, and it was a really good partnership.
Yeah. So what was the key to your part? You always talk about how you were the kind of you did a lot of running, and I remember you saying you thought you and Charlie Nichols would make a good partnership because he was ball to feet.
Charlie went everything to feet.
I kind of remember you as a very, very kind of, dynamic.
He was the top man. The top man when I arrived initially was Mark McGee. I played up front with Mark, and he was brilliant. Mm-hmm. He was brilliant for me. And the thing that I always remember about Mark was he was a brilliant coach during a game. I might do something, and he would say to me, Andy, if that happens again, think about this. And he was so clear, he was so concise, and he was only interested in helping me become a better player. And I thought I always appreciated that. But when Frank came, he was also the top man. So I would take my lead off Frank. If he went long, I'd go short. If he went right, I'd go left. I would do the opposite of what he did. We didn't speak much on the field of play, but we had a really good understanding. And of course, the great thing about Frank was just he worked so hard. All that running that you're talking about, it was great for us as a team. And we had put in place this idea of closing down from the front. We'd worked on it in pre-season. And it worked for us really well. We would often win possession back in our attacking third, and we had good fullbacks, wide players, and me and Frank got a lot of service in the box.
Well, we worked on it. We worked on that down at West Ham before I came, so it was easy for me to step into that. And me and Andy with the trigger, just go. When we went, everyone closed.
Simon, I've never met a guy who's so delighted to be the second top goal scorer in the club Centenary. He's
16
so
minutes,
happy.
17 seconds.
How long did it going to take? I had 12 minutes.
Honestly, he's so happy being the second top scorer.
I know.
But listen, but the beauty of that
10 goals before I got there.
But there was loads. We'll talk about your arrival and your early departure at Ibrox in a wee minute.
Yeah.
So loads of goals from all over the pitch in that team as well, if I remember rightly.
Big Starkey.
Starkey was always good at arriving at the back post, and obviously Mark McGee. I mean, they were able to accommodate the three of you for a good chunk in that season as well. Yeah,
Mark was just great professional. He'd had such a wonderful career, and the thing that struck me, I was 22 at the time, and just the amount of time he gave to me, I just really appreciated it. But playing with Frank was terrific. It was, he was great in the air. We worked as hard as each other, but honestly, Frank would say the same. The amount of service we got from Chris Morris, Anton Rogan, Billy Stark, Joe Miller, Tam Burns, Roy Aitken, Grant McStay in the middle of the park. You had a lot of good teammates there.
Do you have a Centenary team WhatsApp group?
No.
Why not?
Well, we do, but Frank's not.
No.
I feel really sorry for you. Listen, I'll bet you are.
I'm in enough group chats. I don't need going anywhere. There's no women on it. I don't go on them.
Frank, right?
Before we go any further, got to give a massive shout out to our sponsors, Glenwood. Proper lifesavers, these guys.
Aye, Glenwood. Now, Frank, you've had experiences with people owing you money over the years, haven't you?
Oh, don't start me, mate. I could write a book and people owing me money. If I had Glenwood, I'd still be a millionaire.
Well, Glenwood are specialists in debt recovery. So if you're a business and someone owes you money and they're messing you about, Glenwood are the guys to call.
Exactly. You do the work, you should get paid. Glenwood makes sure of that. No messing about. Just straight talking experts who get the job done.
That's it. If you want to get paid faster, get in touch with Glenwood at glenwoodconstruction.co.uk.
Don't forget to tell them Frank sent you.
Frank arrives in October, very, very early on after he arrives, is that game at Ibrox. Goldilocks and the Three Bears. We've discussed that a few times. We had Derek Ferguson sitting there, played in the game and couldn't actually remember it, but that's another story. What's your recollection of all that? You scored that day, didn't you?
I scored that day, but I remember Billy saying to Frank, don't get involved.
Actually gave me a cuddle. So don't get involved.
I do remember there was one incident where I knew, I could sense that it annoyed Chris Woods. A ball came in. I think Tam Burns put it in. There was snow on it, and Frank went in. It was right under the bar, and Frank went in and jumped into the goalkeeper. Today I think it would be a foul. But Chris Woods was really annoyed.
I know.
And then a few minutes later, ball comes down the right. I think Chris Morris puts it in, and Frank made contact with him again. And of course, this little Barney ensued. What I remember is going in at half time, And of course, I'm ecstatic. We're 2-0 up. And Frank's, where were you? Frank, don't get involved. Remember what the manager said, don't get involved. Because normally you would be going in and helping your teammates.
I turned round and all my teammates are on
I
the way.
have to say,
I get out of the way because it would have ended in tears.
Listen, I'm not criticising any of your teammates, right? But I do remember looking at the footage and thinking, Frank's on his own.
No one took
It was like you.
We were all doing as we were told. Don't get involved. Frank's taking
I
back
took him all on. Yeah. I was used to it in England because it was 3 English players, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So I was used to kicking them down there.
So you scored, and then there's a bit of debate about who got the second Celtic goal.
It was a right good move. One-touch football, Starkey, Tam Burns, Granty. And I remember I passed it to Granty, and of course he claims it to this day.
Oh my God.
A guy that's played, about 50, 60 games against Rangers, and he never scored once.
No.
God's sake.
Who got the final touch? Was it Big Butcher?
Terry Butcher.
He got lobbed his own keeper. Great.
And of course, Chris Woods had been sent off, so he put it over the head of Graham Roberts. And that was us 2-0 at half-time. And I've got to say, as high as I was at half-time in that game, what a contrast at 90 minutes, because that was a win that we chucked away. For them to get back to 2-2. Big Starkey had the bar at 2-0.
Yeah.
But we should have won that. That was painful.
And that would have, because obviously Celtic went on to win the league.
Yeah.
But that might have opened a wee bit of a gap at that point as well.
Well, we played them 4 times in the league. We beat them 3 times and drew that once. Yeah. So, oh God, it's funny. I mean, that's your first season at Celtic. You think, it's Celtic Rangers stuff. Is this the way it goes every season? And of course, thereafter,
because we went there and beat them 2-1. It was, and it was sometime it was March or something. I thought we won the league now. Once Paul scored. And come off, was it you? Come off, Anton. Anton Hebbins.
Oh, yeah. I know. You just mentioned him, Anton. He honestly brings a big smile to your face. He's great company. Yeah. And he went up for this header. Tam Burns swung it over, and he went up with it here. Of course, he could header it anywhere. The goal's there, and he's headed it there, and it's come right off the bone in my shoulder. If you were ever in the right place at the right time, that was it. And that was us 2-1 up.
I think that was it. Because Paul scored the other one, didn't he?
He got the first one.
I thought we'd won it then. I thought that was us.
I
know we couldn't rely on it, but I just thought, you know, that way. I think it was Chris. Was Chris get married or something? No, after it.
Brian, we can't talk about that.
Do you know who scored Rangers scored that game?
Who cares?
Right, moving on.
What was that one, sorry?
I don't know. Who was it
was that game? The game when Paul scored and you scored one off the chest.
Was it Coiste?
No, I think it was a Scandinavian left back.
It was Jan Bartram.
That's it. Jan Bartram.
Okay. I remember it now. Aye.
Did you not criticise Scottish football as well?
I think he was a bit shocked when he scored because he didn't know what to do. He didn't know if I remember right. I remember now. Yeah, but he's not bad, is he?
Do you know? I remember it because I gave away that free kick.
Right.
I know.
And
that's what you get. I told you about getting back. You shouldn't be back.
But they're the things you remember.
There's loads of things I want to get through here. But huge affection for you from the Celtic support for a massive year in the club's history and all that. Obviously, in recent years with your media career, there's been a wee bit of kind of criticism about, because you've been deemed to be a bit too critical of Celtic. How does that sit with you when you hear all that stuff?
I couldn't be more relaxed about it. I mean, when I played, I got a level of adulation I've never had before. And I also got some criticism. And honestly, it's fair enough. There were times there were times I didn't play well, and I totally accept the criticism. But when you're, in a winning team that wins the league, wins the cup, the adulation you get is amazing. I was at a Pollock game 2 or 3 weeks ago. Didn't have a game on a Saturday. I went along to see Pollock. I'm queuing up for a coffee. And I didn't realise it was cash only. So I was walking away. Oh, sorry, I've only got cards. The guy behind me said, would you mind if I bought you your coffee? I said, oh, you're all right. I'm with a couple of friends. He said, no, I went to Celtic every week in the Centenary year, the years after. He said, you're one of my favourite players. A 70-year-old man, maybe.
Brilliant.
And it's lovely when you meet guys like that. I was down doing a game in England when Celtic were playing Bayern in Glasgow. So I was coming up on the train. It was full of Celtic supporters. 1 or 2 just wanting wanting a selfie, wanting to talk about the game. It's very rare I get any stick sort of face-to-face, but Frank will tell you, I have got no social media presence whatsoever. I'm not interested in engaging in any chat with anyone, and I am not a cheerleader. I never have been.
That's what I was going to ask, because and I've read interviews you in the past saying that, and some pundits are cheerleaders. I look at you and I think of a guy who had a very successful football career and now a very successful career as a journalist rather than a pundit. You know, so you're a journalist, so therefore impartiality, I suppose.
When I finished the year 2000, I was 35 and I got asked to write a column. I was getting asked to go on TV, radio. I used to do a thing for teletext back in the day. So the accumulation of these things, and I thought, you're dead right. I think that this could be a career. And I always remember people at Radio Clyde, people at STV, people that I respected, that I trusted. Always remember there's two teams on the pitch. And I remember the first time I was criticised heavily. We were doing a Celtic Rangers game for STV. I was doing it with Archie McPherson. And Rangers won. They beat Celtic 2-1. Bert Conterman scored a outrageous goal. It's a brilliant goal.
Yep.
Anyway, my job as co-commentator was to man of the match. And I gave it to Barry Ferguson. And I got absolute dog's abuse because of that. And I remember meeting Paul McStay a few days later. And he said, Andy, you were dead right. Barry ran the show that night. He was the best man on the park. So any criticism you're getting. And for that to come from Paul, who knows a thing or two about playing in the middle of the park, I thought, you have to take these things with a... And sometimes you can be a bit too sensitive to it. Believe me, I'm not. I haven't been for a long time.
Come back to your Celtic career, and then you leave the first time, and was it Brady? I think was in charge, wasn't it? Yeah. And I think you've been a wee bit critical in the past as well.
Yeah, it was time for me to go. And Liam initially was very warm. He was very kind. He was very open to. I'll try and help you get a move. I didn't have an agent, and I'd gone to Newcastle on loan. Stupidly, I had gone when I was injured because it was such a great opportunity. I should have held back. So that was a missed opportunity. And then Falkirk and Motherwell came in for me and offered money to Celtic. It was around 150 grand. And Liam thought I would go to one of the two. And I said, Liam, I don't want to go to either club. I want to go down south, and I don't care where it is. I just want to experience something different from Scottish football. And I couldn't believe it. He said, if you don't go to Falkirk or Motherwell, I'm going to stop your wages. And of course, my wife was pregnant at the time, had to go home and tell her that this was a new problem. And just unnecessary stress, strain. And the reason I lost respect for Liam was the way he was treating me as a footballer. I just felt as though I didn't deserve it. He was making me train with the 18s. He was making me go along to their games. He was putting me on the bench for every game. And he was telling the coach that I had to come on with 1 minute to go. So I had about 3 or 4 of those games. And for a manager to treat any player like that, I just thought it was pathetic. And I lost all respect for Liam after that. One of the great things about it, Simon, and I don't know if I've even mentioned it to Frank, it's just come into my mind. I remember feeling as though I'm getting treated really badly here. And I remember Paul standing up in the dressing room, Paul McStay, and he stood up and addressed Liam Brady and said, it's a disgrace the way you're treating Andy. He doesn't deserve it. He wants to go, but you want to stop his wages. And I thought, Paul, this is my fight. I'll handle it. But I was so thankful that someone like that had just stood up and spoke. Well, captain material.
There you go. So you hear so many great things about Paul McStay, and then you hear something for the first time that you didn't. And it's just
that was him just trying to look after a former teammate. I mean, I was happy to go, and Celtic were moving in a different direction. Absolutely fine. I was so grateful to have played for my team, and for Paul to give me that level of support. It was just wonderful.
That's an amazing story. So you end up anyway down at Bolton.
Yeah.
And there's a resurgence for you there, wasn't there? Because you
really
played
enjoyed
good and playing alongside John McGinley.
Yeah, great lad.
Did you have any kind of dealings with John McGinley? Did you ever play alongside him or whatever? No.
Well, he was a different era from Frank,
He would have been slightly, of course.
He was also, I don't know how many caps you got, but John got a similar amount of caps. I think he scored a winning goal for Scotland against Sweden.
Ibrox, I think.
96 qualifier, Euro 96 qualifier.
Yeah.
But John was very similar to Frank in the level of work that he put into his game. And I often wonder now how I would fit into football, because I was always part of a partnership.
Yeah.
Frank was the number one striker. I fed off him. John McGinley, number one striker. I fed off him at Bolton. Now you have one main striker, you have two wide, you have maybe two or three behind. Maybe that would be a position for me, but I'm glad I always had a strike partner, because they were the best times of my career.
That's maybe a debate for another episode, whether 4-4-2 will ever come back.
I don't think so. I just look at, I look at Leicester a few years ago, and Ranieri just played 4-4-2, and they won the league. And now I'm thinking, defenders can't defend against two, because they've never used it.
Yeah.
It's just what we won.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, Vardy and Mahrez, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Mahrez kept coming off, and they didn't know how to handle it.
But that
I was
was
thinking, it's just something simple. And I don't know why they don't do a 4-4-2. I just think it's, Brendan does a 4-3-3, didn't he?
Fergie's great team 4-4-2 with Man United.
Yeah.
I know there was a lot of flexibility within it, and he had top players.
Yeah.
But no, I didn't realise I was going to Bolton, and there was a young Jason McAteer, a young Alan Stubbs. There was a guy in the middle of the park called Tony Kelly, who'd played with West Brom. He was a terrific player. Phil Brown at right back, who went on to manage Hull and a few other clubs.
Well, he done a sit-down, didn't he? Was that
He
him?
did the sit-down at Hull. That's still remembered to this day. Great lad, Phil. And I played up front with John McGinley. It was a really good team.
Who was the manager there?
It was Phil Neal that signed me. He didn't last long, Phil, and then Bruce Rear came in.
All right, okay.
And when Bruce was the manager, we were going to Anfield and winning, going to Highbury and beating Arsenal, going to Everton, beating them. Right. We beat Aston Villa in the cup. We were making a name for ourselves, not just as individuals, but as a team. We were a bit of a threat.
Before we go on and talk about this story that I want to talk about, it's just a reminder to everybody, hit the subscribe button. It's free to subscribe.
Yeah.
And as we say every week, the numbers are growing. They're growing really well, but we need you to keep supporting us and follow us on social media, all the usual platforms, all the usual channels. And Frank will continue to deliver guests like this, like Andy Walker. When you were down at Bolton, and I remember this like it was yesterday, watching that Anfield Cup tie, when you scored against Liverpool, and Bolton knocked Liverpool out of the cup and you'd scored. And it was great because your career had kind of been a wee bit quiet for, through the eyes of Celtic supporters, I think, for that a year or so. And then there was Andy Walker scoring live in the telly and doing what people remembered you doing. But being interviewed after the match, and the guy, I don't know who it was, the guy said, that must have been the highlight of your career. And it was, and you didn't mean to, but I think there was a bit of disdain in your reply.
He was just very dismissive of Scottish football, very dismissive of Celtic and Rangers, very dismissive of what it means for someone like me to... I can remember going along with my dad to Celtic games. I'm one of 11 kids. I've got 6 brothers. We used to go to the games all the time. My Celtic team is around the sort of early 80s with McGarvey, McCluskey, Nicholas, McLeod, McGrain... Tam Burns as well, Roy Aitken, guys that some of them I went to, they actually became teammates and friends. So for him to dismiss, me playing in a Celtic Rangers game, scoring a winner, come on.
I know.
This was a magic moment for me, scoring at
Anfield.
And at the Cop End. It was a great moment for everyone at Bolton.
Yeah.
But don't compare it to something that meant so much to me.
Yeah, that was, it was a great thing to see. And then it was, I think Arsenal as well. You was at a cup tie too. Did you know?
Well, the one against Arsenal was a bit special because I was out for the best part of a year with an anterior cruciate ligament injury. And actually, I'd been tapped up to go to Spurs, so I was going to go that summer to Tottenham, and I got injured on the Easter Monday, and that was me out for the best part of a year. So I think, well, it was the first goal that I scored on my return from injury was against Arsenal at Highbury, and we beat them. They were the cup holders at the time, and it was another one of those performances where I can remember Bruce Rioch the next day talking about the game, and he'd got a phone call from Terry Venables, who was the England manager, and he said the best man on the park that night, and everybody thought it was going to be, Jason McAteer or Alan Stubbs. It was Tony Kelly, who we'd taken from West Brom. Tony had a wee bit of a problem with his weight. He was always carrying a few extra pounds, but what a footballer. Great player. And Terry Venables picked him out as the man of the match.
It wouldn't have been like you to tell him as well, would it?
Oh dear. Carrying a few pounds.
You left him alone, did you?
When you're getting weighed and you're putting your foot on the scales and he's, oh my God.
The young kids don't understand that, don't they? You stand behind them going, what are you? And you're standing on it. They're going,
great fun.
Somebody mentioned that, one of the comments on YouTube last week about you doing that very thing. I said that I remember Frank standing behind me somewhere and putting his foot in the scales.
The old ones are the best.
Aye.
Great laugh.
So the return to Celtic in '94 and introduction to Fergus McCann, that must have been an education too.
Yeah, what happened was I was getting out my door. I was going on holiday to Spain with the wife and kids, and I got a phone call from Lou Macari. Can you come up and sign? I said, Lou, I'm going out the door to go on holiday. And he said, will you come to Glasgow to sign? I'm under a bit of pressure here. And anyway, long story short, I went out with the family to Spain. A couple of days later, I flew back to Glasgow to be paraded in front of all the press. And then when I flew back out to Spain to rejoin the family, I got a call saying that Lou Macari had been sacked and my move wasn't going to be recognised by Fergus McCann. So I flew back to Glasgow to have another medical at
Some holiday for your missus, this one.
At Fergus's insistence, I would have another medical. And then we sat around a table. I was with my brother at this point, and my dad was on his last legs at the time. So it was the biggest reason I was coming back. Yeah. My dad was suffering from cancer at the time. So this was July, maybe July. And my dad died in the October. So it was great to come back and spend the last few months with him, with my mum, be around the family for as much as I was. And Fergus, I found him okay. He
sorry to interrupt, did you have any dealings with him? No.
Well, he said to me, we got a kind of weird situation here, unwilling selling club, unwilling buyer, and he's talking about, Bolton wanting to take me back. And I remember...
He's Irish.
So I remember Tommy was actually the manager at the time, and my first month's wage slip, I noticed this deduction of $29.99. I'm like, what is that? And Fergus had taken the cost of the strip that I had posed with on the day that I signed. And then the next month, I got a bill for return flights from Spain. And I'm going, Tam, what did I do about this? He says, he billing you for, you're coming back to the club to sign and he's wanting you to pay it. And he burst out laughing. He said, leave it with me. And Tommy went up and sorted it. But he wanted me to pay for a strip and he wanted me to pay for return flights to Spain to come back and have a medical.
That's incredible, isn't it? Honestly. I mean, look, a lot of Celtic fans...
days, I think.
I know, but if you think of Fergus McCann, there's still people calling for statues and all that stuff. And what he did for Celtic was remarkable. But when you hear stories like that, and then you think, well, how do you become successful in business?
Well, the problem is,
if he never came in, a prisoner,
If he never came in, I don't think Celtic would have been anywhere. They would have been gone. They were talking about going to Cambuslang or something, weren't they?
He is undoubtedly one of the greatest names in the history of Celtic, and I think it's a great shame that when Celtic won the league and our good friend Tam Boyd went out to unfurl the flag, and he pretty much got booed by the whole stadium. Yeah. And
what was that for?
I don't think he would get booed now.
No, I think people just like to boo, don't they? I mean, that's so Fergus McCann arrived. He started to boo me. He arrived. He did everything he said he was going to do, but I think the problem was that he was basically saying, "Right, I'm trying to build the foundations for something here for the future. So we can't just waste money left, right, and centre."
It's no secret that Tommy Burns had a difficult relationship with him. Yeah. I've spoken to Billy Stark about that a few times, and Billy would be able to tell you things that would really surprise you. But so. I do remember at one point being at the club, and we all thought if he had released a wee bit more funds for Tommy, I mean, you've got to remember, when I came back to Celtic, so that was 94, 95, we were playing at Hampden.
That's right.
We finished 4th that year. Now, you see the pressure that Clement is under at Rangers, and he's so many points behind, but he's 2nd. We were 4th. And I think the Celtic supporters were happy to go along with Tommy because he was one of them, and he was putting together a team that you could see the football was good. When he signed Van Hooijdonk, when he signed Di Canio, when he signed Cadetti, the football you were watching was really good, but they were still not quite at it. And then eventually, of course, sadly after Tommy got the sack, because he went. Was it 3 years without really getting a trophy before that Scottish Cup? And then Wim Jansen came in and it changed. So it was... Yeah.
By the way, that's a really good point you make about modern fans and the entitlement of modern fans. When we've discussed it before, that 6-year period from 89 to 95, not a single trophy. And right in the heart of that, I always remember... At the end of the whatever season it was, there was a testimonial, might be Liam Brady's. Celtic played the Republic of Ireland anyway in this match at Parkhead.
I didn't play in this.
No, but and Tiger Tim was doing the tannoy announcement stuff, and at the end of the match, he was basically saying, "Right, let's hear it for the Celtic team," and he said, "In this season, Scottish Cup semi-finalists, league runners up or 3rd place or whatever," and you're thinking, God. That's what he was trying to get the fans to kind of congratulate them for.
Well, the fans, to be honest, stood by Tommy because we were nowhere near winning the league.
But this was pre-Tommy Burns. I think when Tommy Burns, this was probably the in between. Brady was in manager. So this would have been when would that have been? 91.
I mean, the biggest problem with Liam is his tactics were. I mean, I'm looking when I came back. He asked me.
What year was that?
91 or something. 91 maybe.
Right.
And he asked me to come back, and I was going to Thistle.
I remember that.
Sorry, Thistle. And he asked me to come back, and I says, "Yeah, but you owe me money," because they owed me money for the first time. They never paid me. So we got that sorted, and then he came back.
All about money, eh?
But I wasn't fit. And it was he's pushing me and getting me fit, doing double sessions and all that. And he says, "Look, we've got an injury crisis." He says, "Can you play in the cup at Airdrie?" And I says, "No, really." He said, "Well, give us an hour." And I says, "Right, okay." So it's that Andy Swin, torrential. I mean, you're talking, the heavens opened up. Honest to God, it was torrential rain. I'm thinking, it's going to get cancelled. Never get cancelled. Never can. Well, you know me, I'd just go out and play. And it was at the bar.
Did you play well?
But before the game, I'm sitting at Airdrie, Broomfield in the dressing room with Granty, Paul, all the boys are there. And I'm looking at them, they're all sitting as if they're terrified. And Liam got the board out. Well, I thought we were playing Real Madrid. I'm going, we're playing Airdrie. I'm looking at him. He says, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm just checking we're at Broomfield." So Liam's like, "What?" I says, "We're playing Airdrie. Just go out and beat them." Because that was my attitude with Celtic. That's the way it should be. Now I hit the bar, Tommy Coyne scored, and we beat them 1-0, which is great. It's like, it was unbelievable. Some of the tactics when playing Airdrie. I mean, I get it, get to the point, but these guys, they're just in for work. They just came for work today, and they're coming to Broomfield to play a game. So
So that was a dark period for the club, that whole 6-year period.
Yeah.
And then you came back, and then, I mean, one of the darkest hours, and I think was actually Tommy Burns might have been manager. Was he manager of the Wraith Rovers Cup final?
Yes.
He was, aye.
Yeah.
But, and so, felt heart sorry for him the way that ended. You scored.
It doesn't matter who scored, we lost. But honestly, if you could give that missed penalty to me, I would take it, because the one guy you did not want the missed penalty to fall upon was Paul, for what he was doing for Celtic, for what he gave Celtic, for all that time. One of my favourite players, favourite teammates.
One of the best
Just,
players I've ever played with. Best player.
Well, just to see the pain he was in, and obviously for Tam as well. But I mean, you're losing to Wraith Rovers in a cup final. You need to take all the criticism that's coming your way.
But the following season, I'm sure, so there was return to Celtic Park, the new stand opened.
Yeah.
And
No,
Tom, no, it was not. There was a real feeling among the Celtics board that things were starting to happen again.
Yes.
But Tommy Burns put a tremendous team on the pitch.
He did.
And they didn't. I think they only lost one game.
Never lost
We
again,
only
didn't
lost once, and the problem was we drew too many.
Yeah.
And
I think they drew 11 times, I think.
I think we probably pushed Rangers to be a bit better, and but that hadn't happened for a while. And as you rightly say, I think the supporters were beginning to believe that the Celtic team, with one or two additions, could do something, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, it did.
Now we're looking back, and it's just, as you said, entitlement to young boys. We've won
Well,
title after title and titles.
We could discuss it all day. I mean, not the first trophy they didn't win after a quadruple treble, and there's folk up rioting, or not rioting,
Well,
but
it's almost as if Celtic won a treble. That's how you measure the success of the team now, which, when you don't win a trophy, I mean, Celtic are dominant. They've got the most money, they've got the biggest squad, they've got the better players, but a bit like Celtic against Bayern Munich, you can go up against a team that have got vast sums of money greater than yours, but you can compete, and sometimes, you'll lose in a cup tie and you'll lose a trophy.
Before we finish up, so I'm just looking at the clock and time's moving on. I'm always keen to get an idea for people who watch the English game closely. What's the Big Ange thing at the moment? Do you think he's going to come through all this, or do you think he's in trouble?
I really hope so.
Yeah.
I like his style. I like his football. I like his team. When his team are on it, I think they're great to watch. And I think it would be really good for the Premier League if he does come through this, because I know that I've only been to one Tottenham game, and I think the noise is growing now that a lot of them want him out.
Right.
But if he could get his better players back fit,
That's a problem, Andy.
it's a big problem.
I know,
And
because his players are not there, and he's asking players to do something that they can't do.
Yeah. Although
And it's
I hope it
couple of
works
league
for him.
wins in the bounce though.
He was brilliant for Celtic, and even just a total aside, the way he spoke to me, all of my colleagues
brilliant.
at Sky,
Spoke to
he was
me.
so courteous.
Yeah.
He was so warm. Before games, when you're there a couple of hours, we're always there 2-3 hours before kick-off. The team turns up maybe an hour and a half before kick-off. Ange Postecoglou would always come over, say hello to me, to Luke Shanley, to Ian Crocker, just talk about the game, talk about whatever game had gone past, and he was very courteous to everyone at that time, which not everyone is.
No, of course.
No.
And I feel for him, because sometimes he's having to
Nice
field
guy.
the same questions every single week, and he just looks that way that
Yeah.
people talk about his demeanour, and it's kind of almost defeatist demeanour. But when you're having to give the same answers and talk about the same injury list,
I
and the
love
same
it when he calls
crisis.
people mate. Something's coming after.
I know, it's good. His very first press conference for Celtic, I'm sure, when somebody said to him about and what about Hearts? Do you know much about Hearts? And he says, well, I haven't been living on the moon, mate.
Yeah.
I do follow football.
I texted him when he got the job just to wish him all the best, to thank him what he'd done for Celtic. He was very kind and warm in his reply, and I really hope it comes good for him, because if he could get
Nice
that,
guy.
if he could get that European trophy, I think the club could just go to a different level.
Yeah, that would be great. After he predicted that he always wins in his second season, if he does that, how good would that be?
Tremendous.
He's just telling it. He's just telling the truth. That's what happens. He normally does it.
Yeah.
So,
well, time's caught up with us.
Andy, thanks very much.
That's
It's brilliant having
What a pleasure.
you two in the same
Reminisce.
room. Great. And
Reminiscing.
aye, actually sitting in the same room with the top scorer in the Centenary season. It's almost something I always dreamed about. Something I always dreamed about doing. He's going to kill
something
me.
I've always dreamed about as well.
Anyway, Andy, thanks a lot.
Pleasure,
And
thank
we
you.
will be back. We'll be back
thanks,
again next week with another fantastic guest. And we will see you soon. And keep
Don't
following.
forget, subscribe.
Hit the subscribe button. Take care. See you later.
Bye.